Okay, so a very warm welcome, everybody, to the first of a course of Mindset Shift. Now, it's going to be quite heavy tonight. I'm just going to put it out there, okay? I'm going to be touching things that you probably, some of you already heard it, but it's like a book. You know, you go back and read that same book again, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, there's things you're going to pick up that you hadn't before. And it's not because the book has changed, it's because you have changed. Okay, and because this business is all 90% up here, we need to control our thoughts, our actions, our deeds, our words. We need to nourish into being that, evolving to be that leader, that person that we want. Oh, Emma's on. Good, right there she is. Good evening, Emma. Okay, so my second guest speaker's on. Great. So Michelle and Emma are on. Great. Okay, so it's going to be quite heavy. And some of you will have heard some stuff already, is what I'm saying. Some of you will have heard nothing of what I'm saying tonight. If it kind of goes over your head, that's okay. And I will say that because I remember when I first started personal development, you know, I'd never touched on these books before. I had no idea of this other world. And it gave me a sore head. Can I just say it wasn't enjoyable and it was not fun. Okay, it was like, oh my God, this is like heavy. I really, it was sludgery. It was just, oh my gosh. But I knew I had to do it because leaders are readers, readers are leaders. And I'd heard so many of these people before me say, feed the fountain of knowledge. You know, the Sir Jonas 10, Dana Collins talks about reading your books and feeding your fountain of knowledge. So I knew I had to read. I knew I had to understand more than who I was and what I knew, because if I wanted the different results to appear, I had to be different to achieve those different results. Okay, and we talk about, you know, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That will never ever happen. So I'm so excited tonight. I have two amazing they're my keynote speakers, Michelle Duke and Emily. Both are, thank you, Danny. Both are, with her makeup on, both are district to area managers. And to me, they're shifts. Fundamentally, I want this course to be about shifts. Okay, mindset shift. So some of the things are going to come out my mouth and you will not resonate with me. Okay, vibrationally wise, you might be like, okay, that's just gone over my head. Go back and listen to this recording again and again until it starts to make sense. Okay, because I know that I'm going to give you, as your personal development, as you grow, okay, you're going to listen and hear different things from different people. So I'll tell you a big thing what happened years ago. Danny and I went to a training, and it was a VP training before AAC. It was a side room training, and Ian Pritchard was training. And, or was it GTC? I can't remember. Anyway, he was training. And, you know, and after that training, Danny, AAC, right? Danny turned around to me and she said, what did you think of that training? And I was like, oh my God, that was epic. Like, that was amazing. And Danny looked at me going, I don't get it. Like, that was rubbish. And I was like, oh my, no way. So she then knew that I'd shifted, and she wasn't at the same place as me because she didn't get it and I did. Okay, so understand that, you know, different leaders tonight, that's why Michelle and Emma are so important, because I want you to hear their shifts, because we're all looking to go. We're all here on the call, and congratulations, well done everybody for turning up, but you're here for a purpose. So let's fill the purpose. Let's get you to where you want to be. All right, so who has heard of Dr. Masaru Emoto? Anyone? Dr. Masaru Emoto. Put your hands up if you have. Kelly, she's like, can't get her hand any higher. Literally, that girl is going to human combust one day. She's laughing. Right. So you know about the Dr. Masaru Emoto. Yeah, he's a famous doctor. I think Kelly has. Should we test her? Kelly, unmute yourself. Who is he?
He made pizzas.
No,
he didn't. No, he did. That's Dr. Otkut. No, I'm really joking. He's the Japanese scientist guy who, with the water, experiments with water and with the way that water moves on the vibration. Water is an ocean of motion, so it's constantly moving, never stands still, and he can pick up vibrations and frequencies by looking at the examining water. You can do it with rock music, with opera music, with the vibration. If it's someone with happy vibrations, yeah, that's him.
Perfect. I love it. Great explanation. Not pizzas, but water frequencies. All right. So I'm just going to play you guys a little video. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this. Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen a minute. I didn't press pause. All right. Okay. Any thoughts of that? Put it in the chat. Okay. You can go and look him up on YouTube. It's Kelly, can you put his name, Dr. Masaru Emoto, in there? So the point being is that your body's 70% water. So what you say, it comes through. This crystallized water was showing shapes of like humanity. And then it showed, like, they can see different YouTube clips where you played heavy rock music. And you would, he was saying, talking to the water, hate, 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 jealous, jealous. And the water froze. Like, it wasn't crystal clear, it was brown, it was mucousy, it was distorted. So if you are saying what you're thinking is coming through in words, actions, emotions, and deeds, be super careful. And that's what I really want to focus on tonight, your thought patterns. Okay, so my message to all of you guys is, why wait? Why wait for that tragedy before you decide to change who you are? And when you do begin to apply these principles I'm going to share with you tonight, it's because you understand that they work and what it means. So people, this is in my mind, who do the work are more in love with their future than they are with their past. And they are more interested in telling the story of possibility and their future than reliving the emotions and experiences of past. Because the past holds us. Okay, we need to break free those bonds, and don't feel like guilt for your past, because your past is who you are today, but it's okay because you've grown, okay, into the person to become the person you want to be. So you don't have to be a scholar or an academic. In fact, it's better that you're not, because sometimes the simplicity of what I'm going to share with you tonight, it can be, for some people, it's too simple, but it is simple, guys, okay? And when you apply it, you begin to experience the fruits of your efforts. And when you do this with your thoughts, you literally can have an effect in your entire body. Okay, that all thoughts carry an energy or a frequency. That's important. So if you're water, you're carrying an energy and frequency naturally anyway, okay? So if you believe that on some level, your thoughts have something to do with your body, and I really hope you do, you are likely, because we're thinking 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, in one day, believe it or not, this is human, 90% of those thoughts you are thinking are the same redundant thoughts as the day before. Can you believe that? So it's going to produce the same measurable effects in your body, in your water, in your body, and you're going to be able to emit the same energy and information in your life and keep writing the same life, the same story. So we need to change our story. That's so important, guys, moving forward. So the same thoughts will always lead to the same choices. And that's why it's so important listening to Emma and Michelle tonight, because where they were to where they are, the same choices always lead to the same behaviors. The same behaviors create the same experiences, and the same experiences produces the same feelings and the same emotions. Same old, okay? And these very same emotions drive your very same thoughts and your biology, your circulatory system, your hormones, even your genetic expression is equal to how you think, how you act, and how you feel. Okay, it's so true, guys. Now we know this, so why do we keep harping on? And if you are here on this call in the same place you were a year ago, why? You need to really understand why you haven't moved forward. Okay, it's so important to engage now so you can change. So this time, in a year's time, in 2021, you have a different outcome. So how you think and how you act and how you feel is called your personality. All right, and your personality creates your personal reality. Write that down. Your personality creates your personal reality. Okay. One big thing is, if you're not reading these books, if you're not reading 10 pages of a personal development book every day, you will not move forward. You will not grow. I promise you that. Okay. So if you want to create a new personal reality, a new life, you're going to have to change your personality. And that means that you're going to have to start thinking about what you're thinking about and change it. So like the water. Okay, what are you saying to your 70% of water inside your body to change? Okay, so you're going to have to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors and modify them, even what you say and how you talk. You're going to have to look at those emotions that keep you connected to your past, because the emotions are the end products of past experiences. And you're going to have to decide that these emotions will no longer belong in your future. So just say that again. So emotions keep you connected to your past because the emotions are the end product of your past experiences. Isn't that incredible? So everything we are feeling comes from the past. All right. And this is all to do with staying in the present now. So if you want to be wealthy, you can't feel lack. You can't feel unworthiness. Can I just say a worthy, wealthy person would never feel that way? Okay, I don't ever feel like that, but I've trained myself to be like that. That doesn't come from an ego place. That comes from a genuine love of my life. All right. So most people try to create a new personal reality with the same personality, and it doesn't work. You are literally going to have to become someone else. All right. So you're going to have to change. And this is why we say, when you join Arbonne, you will not be the same person that shows up in 3 months, in a year, in 6 months, 6 years. You're going to be different. You're going to feel different. Your life is going to be different. Your friends are going to be different. Your thoughts, your actions, your deeds, your words, your results, for the better. Okay. So, all right. So the principle in neuroscience, okay, this is so fascinating to me. It says that the nerve cells that fire together, so the nerve cells in a body fire together, stay together. So it's like hot coals stay together. So if you keep thinking the same thoughts, making the same choices, demonstrating the same behaviors, creating the same experiences, that stamp same networks of neurons, it creates a pattern, okay? So the familiar feeling is called you. Who are you? What patterns have you created in your life? So wouldn't you agree, if you've done that over and over and over again, firing and wiring, emotionally conditioning and signaling the body in the same way as you've always done it in the past, maybe 25 years you've been doing this for, wouldn't you agree that you'd begin to hardwire your brain into a very finite signature? And that finite signature is called your identity. So this is who you identify yourself to be. And it is a fact. It's a fact, guys. By the time you're 35 years old, we become memorized to a set of automatic programs, behaviors, beliefs, perceptions, emotional reactions that function subconsciously. So we're not even really aware that's happening to us, okay, which is crazy. So the first process of change is to become conscious of your subconscious thoughts. And I know when I did this last year, we did the rubber band, and I'll go back for newbies and do that, not this training, but I'm going to go back to that. So be conscious of your subconscious thoughts, because the size of your frontal lobe here is 40% of your entire brain. That frontal lobe, your consciousness, is 40% of your entire brain. The crowning achievement, right? So the human being, all right, listen to me. We are so like cool. So the fact that we can, I'm just going to mute Rachel because I can hear her. So the fact that you can observe how you are thinking, you can notice how you are acting, and you can pay attention to how you are feeling. The moment that you can do this means that you are no longer the program. Okay, so almost come out of yourself and watch the way you think. Why are you thinking that thought that you've probably been thinking for 35 years? So step out of your head and look like you're looking, you know, when people die, they get this thing where they're like in the hospital room and they're like in the top looking down and they can see the time and the surgeons. You want to come out of yourself to look at yourself. Don't get stuck in the picture frame. Step out the picture, look into the frame. Okay. So when you can do this, you're no longer the program. You are the consciousness observing the program of you, and you're beginning to objectify your subjective self. So you are no longer your biology. You're the consciousness observing who you are. Now that is fun. Now you get to see the world through different eyes. So the word meditation literally means get to become familiar with. So this symbol is basically, you know, it's to become familiar with you, really. So if you can become familiar with how you've been thinking and you're conscious of those unconscious thoughts, like, I can't, what's wrong with me? It's too hard. I'll never change. I'll never make it. I'm too tired. Nobody loves me. We've all thought that sometime. We have to be honest, okay? Those are the thoughts that are slipping by your analytical mind, being unchecked, and they're beginning to program your nervous system into the same destiny. So we've got to stop those thoughts, guys, okay? The moment you become aware of what comes out of your mouth and how you act, whether you blame or complain or make excuses for yourself or judge other people, the moment you become aware of that, then you get familiar with that program. So you become more conscious of those unconscious habits so that you will start to change. How fun is that? We get to control this. So, okay, so you're going to become present and aware. You're going to become so familiar with emotions that you've been living by every day for the last 20 years, potentially, that you didn't even know you were guilty because it's just felt like you, and it was so comfortable suffering that you felt really good to feel really bad. Anyone felt like that? It feels good to feel bad because there's a comfort zone there, right? So you didn't know that because you didn't know that that's just how you had been feeling. That had become like a rut, a routine, okay? So the only difference between a rut and a grave is the depth, the length, okay? Get out your rut, get out. So all of a sudden you can say, you know, when you become conscious, you really, it's like a wake-up call. You're going to become aware of what it means. You know, if you're not going to lower your energy, your emotional state. You're going to be conscious of, who am I showing up as? And if you decide you want thoughts, put your attention behind the right thoughts, okay? review that person that you want to show up. How would that person think? What would be the internal dialogue, you know, and begin to fire and live those new circuits in your brain. And if you do that again and again, you're going to, you know, start to install some circuits and rewire yourself. So if you keep thinking, firing, wiring, the hardware would become a software program. And in your waking day, you'll start thinking like a great person. And if you said, I'm going to master this day, one lifetime, how would an unlimited person live today? It's freedom. It's freedom. So so starting to rehearse in your mind who you're going to be before you even open your eyes. So before you even get out of bed, it's the best time. You've been asleep, your subconscious mind's taken over the conscious thought program, you've released, you're fresh. Think before you get out of bed, who am I showing up to as today? Okay. Act it, rehearse it mentally. So when you're truly present, this is magic, guys. Your brain does not know the difference between what's going on out there in the world and what's going on in here. It doesn't know the difference. And all of a sudden, you'll begin to install more circuits in your brain, which starts to prime it. All of a sudden, installing these circuits so that you have the hardware in place to act like the person that you want to become. And if you keep doing this, instead of being a record of the past, now you're becoming a map to the future. All right. And then this is where the magic happens. What if I could teach my body emotionally what my future is going to feel like before it manifests? That feeling, well, water, right? That feeling, look at all the way that the water froze with the beautiful words. So now the challenge is, most people get it the wrong way around. So they wait for their wealth to feel abundant and worthy. They wait for the success to feel empowerment. They wait for the healing to feel gratitude and wholeness. They wait for the new relationship to feel love. They wait for the mystical moment to occur to feel in awe. And that means that we're victims to our environment. We are waiting for something on the outside for us to change how we feel inside. Okay, so the moment we feel better inside, we pay attention to whoever or whatever caused it. So, and that is what happens. In neurotone physics, it's called cause and effect. So, in other words, people are in lack. People are empty. People are suffering. They're waiting for an external condition to change how they feel. And what happens if that doesn't happen? They spend the rest of their lives fighting for it, trying to control it, manipulating it, trying to make it happen because they're separate from the possibility. So, but if you can wake up worthy and abundant, you're walking towards your future. The moment you empower yourself with a vision in here every single day, you're living in your energy and you're going to tune it to a new future on the outside by becoming it on the inside. And synchronicity and serendipity are going to happen all around you, okay? So the moment you're in love with yourself and your life, you're going to magnetize and it's going to be equaled. The moment you're in awe of knowledge and information, you're going to have that mystical experience that you've been looking for. And that's a cause and effect. So science tells us that the environment signals the gene, and all genes make proteins. How interesting is this? And proteins, we all know, are responsible for the structure and the function of your body. And genes are like Christmas tree lights. They turn on and off all the time. So this has been measured. So if an experience, so bear with me, I know it's heavy, I told it would be, in your environment produces an emotion, okay? Science tells us it's the environment that signals the gene, those Christmas tree lights. When you begin to experience the emotion ahead of the environment, so instead of the environment giving it to you, you're going to experience it before it happens in the environment, then you're signaling the gene to begin to make new proteins to prepare the body for that future experience. Do we get that? All right, that's heavy. You're good. You got that. Good. Okay. So now you are in alignment biologically with your destiny, chemically, hormonally, and all of a sudden you're able to maintain that state of mind and body where the physical evidence in your brain and body, almost done, looks like the experience has already occurred, because you are doing the work where the magic starts to happen in your life, and it can come out of nowhere. The coincidences, the opportunities, that affirmation that Jerry Rosenthal, I'm so happy and grateful for unstoppable confidence, perfect health, and a constant abundance of time, money, freedom in my life. I attract the right people, resources, opportunities. This is the same thing, guys, okay? So all of it will come to you because you are no longer living in the known. You are living in the unknown. The unknown. I'm telling you, you are more alive and living your best when you are living in the unknown than living in the known. Because what you see, your life now, your bank account, your car, your house, is a result of who you were before in here. So if you want a different result, change that and it will match the inner world. So, okay. Woo! I'm now going to have our first keynote speaker. Don't know if she's ever been called keynote speaker, but she is on my training. Emma Lee, you are first. I'm just going to read a little bit about Emma before I hand it over. So Emma's had a very successful career in the beauty industry, achieving her three career goals of working in a London salon, a top health spa, and on cruise ships. She worked up to spa manager on luxury cruise liners and duty manager in one of the top health spas in Europe. She never considered her self-worth to be holding back her success. So why did it take Emma 5 years in her album business to reach area manager? And why did she stay at district manager for 4 years? She's going to share with you her mindset shift. So Emma, my lovely, can you unmute yourself?
Hi.
Oh, right, I'm going to mute myself and off you go, lovely. Thank you so much.
Right, hi. Thank you, Fiona. My goodness, is anybody else's brain starting to do this? Yeah. Wow, how to follow that? How to follow that? Fiona, if I start getting carried away and you need me to zip it, then just give me a nod. So, I wanted to talk to you tonight a little bit about self-worth. Because as Fiona said, I achieved all of the career goals that I wanted to achieve. I had a very normal, healthy upbringing, not been through any special trauma or anything like that, and just kind of considered myself as quite normal and average, really. So I think it was probably around this time last year, and I think it could well have been on the Mindset Bootcamp last year, that we'd had some kind of training about self-worth, and it got me thinking, and something kind of clicked in my head. So I went onto Amazon. I thought I need a book on self-worth, which is where I just typed in books on self-worth, and this is where I found this book. Now, this book was my shift, and I've raved about it lots of times. So it's called The Bug in Our Brain by Robert Christensen, and I will post this as well on the group so that everybody can have a look at it if you want to get it. So I want to talk a little bit about self-worth, because it really is the center of who we are and what we are. Yeah, if you haven't cracked your self-worth, and if you don't understand it, everything else that you can do isn't really going to have much impact. So it doesn't matter how confident you are, how knowledgeable you are, how driven, how much income producing activity you're doing, how much you're practicing law of attraction, affirmations that you're saying, and all of that kind of stuff. If you are not dealing with the personal self-worth that you are worthy and deserving to hit that next promotion level, or to earn that level of money that you're striving for, if you want that relationship that you're after, whatever it is, if deep down inside of you, you don't have that self-worth that you really and truly in your heart believe you desire it, it's not going to happen. And what will end up happening is you will end up self-sabotaging. So self-worth, where does it come from? So just to talk a little bit about, in my opinions and my observations of, you know, what I've learned about it over the years, and I'm certainly no expert, but it starts off in childhood. So if you think of when we're babies and when we're little, everything is a massive celebration. Yeah, the first time the baby rolls over, those first steps, those first words, everything is, oh yeah, wow, you're so amazing, you're so and you know, everything is a massive celebration, isn't it? And then we start to go through this transitional period. Now, you may well be able to relate to some of this. When you go into school, did you get a C? And then were you told, well, why didn't you get an A? Or why didn't you get a B? Or you got 9 out of 10 in a test. Well, why didn't you get 10 out of 10? Now, most parents are encouraging children, but there's a fine line between that encouragement and being made to not feel quite good enough. Now, sometimes it can be parents, and I'm not saying our parents have been doing anything wrong, they're trying to encourage us, and they're doing the best that they can do with the tools that they have, but sometimes this is how it can leave us feeling, and all of these things are having an impact on our self-worth. And then, of course, you know, you're in school and you have peer pressure, and there are the cool kids, and, you know, how do you compare with the cool kids? Who are you hanging out with? And then, of course, you've got the bullies. Were you bullied at school? Did you have those feelings of not feeling good enough, not pretty enough, not thin enough? You know, social media, magazines, all of these things. So right from such a young age, we are living in a society that is telling us that we're not good enough. And from wherever it comes from, but it's just coming from everywhere. And now we have it. Marketing is amazing. Yeah, all marketing and advertising is telling us we are not good enough, so we need to buy this. And it's we're bombarded with this stuff all the time. And, you know, then you get into relationships. You know, have you ever been in a relationship with somebody who, you know, maybe put you down, or if as a female, a guy looking at other women when you're together or anything like that? I mean, I'm not talking about major abuse here, but just those little things can make us feel that we're just not quite good enough, and it chips away at that self-worth. And it can all be so subtle, and it can all go so unnoticed that you don't even realize that it's happening. But this is what is working our self-worth, and we just kind of get used to it. And that's how we get into a position where we accept. It's very easy to accept the bad things and the negative things that people can say to us, but it's very hard to accept the good things and the positive things, because this is what our core beliefs are, and this is what our self-worth is. And it takes a lot of, we talk about peeling away the onion when you're talking about our whys, and it's a bit like that. It's about peeling away all of the layers to really have a long, hard look at yourself and your self-worth, because I didn't think it was an issue for me, but it clearly was, because that is what was standing in my way of getting to area. For whatever reason, I didn't feel like I was worthy to get to that level, and that is why I was doing everything. I was trying so hard, and I was doing all the things I was doing, but it just wasn't coming together. And that is what it was. And it was reading that book that really made the difference to me, that gave me the shift. So, you know, we have to keep working on that, and it's an ongoing thing. And, you know, a few tips that I've come up with that you can help to kind of work with that. And obviously personal development and everything, you know, is a massive part of that, which is why we're always talking about it and we're saying about it. So just some ideas of how to help improve that. So understand where it's coming from, look back at your life. And like I say, obviously if there have been big issues or trauma or abuse or anything like that, then, you know, that's going to stick out like a sore thumb, and that's going to be something that you already probably know that you have to deal with. But a lot of the time it's very subtle things, and try and look back and think about all of those things that just chipped away at your self-worth just a little bit and made you feel like you weren't good enough. And it can be quite hard, it can be quite difficult to do, but the more you do it, the more you have an understanding of it. So really look back and understand where it's coming from, and accept that that's where it came from. And, you know, it's not about resentment or revenge or anything like that, because a lot of the time the people who have made us feel like this, they haven't done it on purpose. Yeah, it's just, you know, it's just one of those things. And, you know, we all now know that we can only feel bad if we allow people to let us feel bad. But because so much of this stuff happened to us when we were children and when we were growing up, we were still learning all of those skills. We didn't understand that at the time. So, accept and forgive the people that made you feel like that, because that's how you can release it. And, a way of doing this is writing a letter to that person. Not to send it to them or anything like that, because the last thing you want to do is make your mum feel bad for telling you should have got 10 out of 10 in your test. but writing a letter and getting it all out on paper is really good therapy. So that's one way of really doing it. And so, and if there was more significant trauma that you've been through, or abuse or anything like that, hopefully with the personal development that you've done already, you will have more of an understanding that was more about the other person than it is about you. Because bullies always have more stuff going on than the person they're bullying. They have more insecurities and more lack of self-worth, if that makes sense, than the person who is actually the victim of it, because they need to make somebody else feel bad in order to make them feel good. So if anything, people like that, they need even more forgiveness. And recognize your own self-sabotaging behaviors. So, we talk a lot about the thermostat, whether we're talking about money or anything like that. So does everybody know what I mean when I say about your thermostat and different levels that you go through? So finding your own self-sabotaging behaviors. So are you, when you're doing the 30 days, do you find yourself sneaking a little bit of chocolate in there? No, nobody will know. Nobody will know. I'll keep it secret. You see people who go on these diets, any diet, I'm not talking about 30 days, but any diets, but they never seem to lose weight because they just fall back into their old habits. They don't feel worthy enough to be that thin person. So they self-sabotage themselves. Not following up with people is another self-sabotaging thing that you can do. Yeah, you might have somebody that you think is going to be amazing and they're asking for more information, but then all of a sudden you'll make an excuse not to follow up with them, or something will happen, or there's excuses there. And this, one of the pictures in this book is really, really good at showing this. So I know it's going to be backwards, but hopefully you can see it. So in this middle area here, this is our thermostat, of our self-worth, and the line is our success. So as soon as you get your success is going up and up and up, and then it goes past the level of your self-worth, and then you get into what's called the red zone. Now this is your self-sabotaging behavior when you get into this red zone. So all of a sudden, you're doing really, really well, everything's going great, and then you go past the point of your self-worth and you start to freak out a little bit and do something really stupid. And so the idea is if you extend this self-worth thermostat, you are going to get that success, because you are not going to be in that red zone. And I'm just going to read just this little paragraph here as he talks about the red zone. So the red zone is the emotional space we enter when we exceed our self-worth limit. It's characterized by fear and free-flowing anxiety, and is the breeding ground of bad behaviors. I recall a client who came to me in desperate shape. He was on the verge of getting fired and needed to close a lot of new business, or else he was done. In less than 4 weeks, he earned more money than he had done in a month, and he earned more money in any month in his whole life. He was ecstatic. And on the day he deposited the check, he picked a big fight with his wife, ruining the joyous moment and success. When asked to explain why he provoked his wife, he was clueless to the reason. I don't know, is all he could say. This is red zone behavior. It lacks explanation and is often justified or explained as character defects, sins of the flesh, faults of mankind, or 1,000 other reasons we label human. So I just thought that was really, really interesting to share. And I'm just going to finish off with one of my self-sabotaging things that I did. So I promoted, I think most of you probably know Jess Brownwell. So Jess isn't actually direct to me. I sponsored Joanna, who is actually over in New Zealand, who sponsored Jess. Now, when Jess went district, because of all of her QV, it would have bumped Jo up to district as well if she had just done a little bit of extra. Now, Jo wasn't actually working the business. She wasn't being active. But I messaged Jo and said, look, Jess is about to go district. If you do 300 QV or something, then it will push you up to district manager as well, and you will start earning from what Jess is doing. Now, she did, and that meant that Jo promoted to district, Jess promoted to district, Jo earned all of the overrides from Jess, and I didn't get anything because Jess was then second generation to me. So I got nothing. So I had been doing all of Jess's coaching and working with her, but I didn't feel worthy to have that and to have that recognition, the reward for the work I put in. So I pushed Jo up to district. So I missed out on that, and I completely self-sabotaged myself. So look at your self-sabotaging behaviours and understand them, and then you can work at how to deal with them. So does that make sense? Is there anything else?
That's great. Thank you, Emma. I love that book, The Bug in Your Brain. I think, who's the author of that book?
So the author is Robert Christensen, and he was actually a computer programmer, hence why it's called The Bug in Your Brain, because he irons out bugs in computer programs. And so all of these different self-worth things are like bugs in our brain that we have to iron out. And it's a really easy read. The chapters are like 2 pages long, and it's very practical. And at the back of the book, it's got affirmations and readings that you can read through. It tells you to do it every day, and it's kind of like prayer, affirmation, that kind of thing, just to raise your vibration and your inner voices and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, great book.
Thank you, Emma. That was amazing. Loads of comments, epic training. I mean, you go read all the comments because they're all about you, my lovely. That was wonderful. Appreciate that.
I hope it's helped some people, because it really helped me. So thank you for inviting me to speak.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And can I just say, you're right. You will never, ever outgrow your self-worth. Ever, guys. You'll never outgrow your self-worth. So that's what you got to work on, right? And Emma did, and she then promoted to area. And also, can I just say, I did a bit like earlier on I talked about hardware and software. Would you ever give the keyboard that taps in the information into the computer, would you give that to somebody in your life who you didn't respect? So be careful whose words you're listening to and putting into your keyboard, and you're typing in their words because they said something to you. Don't ever give your keyboard to somebody who you don't trust, okay? Because honestly, then you're in trouble. All right, so our second keynote speaker is the gorgeous, our newest area manager on the block, Michelle Duke. And I'm just going to read a little bit about Michelle's bio. So Michelle had a career in technology, and it took her all over the world, leading teams in North America, Asia, and Europe. As a high-ranking woman in a very male-dominated world, she was seen as a role model in her industry and was asked often to coach other women to achieve the same success. Michelle had no doubt that she would achieve the same success in Arbonne, but that did not happen. Although she loved the products, she just couldn't talk about the business because she was embarrassed to be selling lipstick. So, and thinking that people would think less of her. So 3 years, her ego got in the way of her success. And then Michelle found her why, and it all changed. So Michelle, can you unmute yourself for me, please?
Yes, I'm here.
No! All right, I'm gonna hand over to you. Thank you, my love.
All right, okay. Yeah, that was so interesting, Emma. Thank you so much for that, because, I think it works very well, actually, probably doing it this way around. Number one, I'm really glad I didn't go straight after Fiona. Wow. But the whole thing about self-worth, well, as you just heard from that introduction, that wasn't my problem. Self-worth wasn't my problem. My ego was my problem, probably. And it's really interesting because we tend to, they're just it's just different ends of the same thing, to be honest. So one isn't worse than the other or better than the other. They just both are self-sabotaging extremes, really. So it definitely was for me, having come out of, as Fiona said there, you know, I had a good job. I had a label around my neck kind of thing, or above my head, that I took with me everywhere. So whenever I went into a meeting, whether it was in my own company or with other big corporates, I kind of had that status that came with it. And it was one of the things that I really, really struggled with when I left the corporate world, was I didn't understand why people didn't, you know, literally kind of stand up when I walked into a room because they'd been used to doing it. And I think it was something that has been a real learning curve for me. You know, when I first started with Arbonne, well, you know, I'm really honest. I'll tell you what happened was, you know, I started to use the products. I loved the products, absolutely great. And Rebecca was absolutely wonderful, and I loved her. And for well over a year, I literally forbade Rebecca from talking to anybody in my circle about the business. Literally, I said to her, I mean, I wasn't subtle about it. I said, no, you're not. Don't you dare. No way. And it was literally because I was embarrassed. I thought that I believed in myself that I thought that other people would think less of me. It took me 2 years to realize it wasn't them that was thinking less of me. It was me that was thinking less of me. And I think that really was a hard lesson for me to learn, that it was me who was worried about not taking myself seriously, not other people. I never, in the whole time that this was happening, had an adverse reaction from anybody, ever. Nobody ever said to me, why are you doing that? That isn't really you, or anything like that. It was me that was making all those comments on myself. So that was that definitely held me back. So it's really interesting, that whole thing about self-worth, I think. But in terms of what we're talking about tonight, which is mindset shift. Yeah, I mean, you know, I spent, you know, it's 3 years since I really started thinking about Arbonne as a career. I spent 2.5 years or so as a district manager, sort of went in and out a couple of times. And although I really set my sights, and I really, in my mind, I really wanted to become an area manager, I just didn't know how to do it. It was as simple as that. I just didn't know how to do it. I did all the personal development. I love personal development. I've always done it throughout my whole career. You know, I was in an American company that were very hot on it. I had coaching, you know, I had executive coaches and people like that. I am a trained coach. I have a diploma in coaching. So personal development to me is second nature, and I love it. I love psychology, all that kind of stuff. So that was never a problem to me, and I'll read any of those books. And when I read them, I think, yep, that's it. That's what I need to do. It's just that if I just get that right, that'll work for me. So, you know, I did all the things that I was supposed to do. I put the tracker up on my board. I reached out to found 2 new contacts every day. I've reached out to people. I would contact people on Facebook. I did networking. I can talk the hind legs off a donkey. You know, I can talk to anybody. So no problem with any of that. I would follow up. I'd chat with people. I'd go and have one-to-ones with them. It was all great. The thing I didn't do was I never asked anybody to join the business. So I could talk around it. I would talk through it. I would talk over it and under it and everything. But I didn't ask anybody. And I didn't know why I couldn't do it. It was almost like something really physical held me back from doing this. It was a really visceral thing for me. And I would sit and think about it for a long time, and I'd talk about it and I would examine it, and I had no idea why this was really. And all I could put it down to was this ego thing. And so, you know, like Fiona was talking about, I did think about what I was thinking. I was aware of it. I did analyze it. I just didn't know what to do about it. And I have to say, I mean, Rebecca's not on this call, but my God, that woman is a saint. How she put up with me sometimes, I just don't know. Because I would promise to do everything and I'd go away with full intention to do it. And then I just didn't do it. And I would put it down to lack of discipline. I'd put it down to loads of different things. And it really took me a long time to work out what it was. And one of the things that I did was I decided I wanted to get fit. It was my 60th birthday back in June, and I said to myself, I want to be as fit as I can be by my 60th birthday, and from then on I want to be a fit person. And I really thought this through in my head, and I realized that what I was talking about was I didn't want to do being fit. I wanted to be a fit, healthy person for the rest of my life. I wanted that to be part of my personality, exactly like Fiona's just talked about. Not something I did on the side, but that actually was an intrinsic part of who I was. And as I was going through that kind of thought process, and as I started to go in through that exercise, the discipline that brought with it, I had to go to the gym. I couldn't not go. It wasn't, you know, that was part of me becoming and being that person. I realized that was the thing that was missing for me in Arbonne, that I wasn't being the person, I was doing the things, or trying to do the things. And so that was definitely a mindset shift for me, was the idea of being the person. Now, I'd always got this idea about being a lifer and closing the door behind you, and you know, I absolutely love it. I love everything about being part of this community and Arbonne and things like that. So, you know, I kind of got that logically, but I hadn't got it emotionally, I think. And this idea of being rather than doing was definitely a big mindset shift. So that was kind of my first stage, I think, in moving the needle for me, because I realized that I had to be, exactly as you've just talked about, Fiona, waking up in the morning being that person, not thinking, oh God, what have I got to do today in order to do my Arbonne, but waking up being that person who just did it. That was the first stage, but the much bigger one for me was this thing about the why. Now, I'd heard about this, I'd read books about it, I'd listened to everything, Fiona had talked to me about it, we'd been through it a number of times. What was my why? And I have to say, I just didn't know. I couldn't put my finger on why this could be really, really important to me in my life. I didn't really need the money. It wasn't the money that was going to do it for me. I wasn't motivated by that. You know, yes, an extra 10 grand a month wouldn't go far astray, but you know, it wasn't something that was going to make me really passionate about it. And I just couldn't find what it was. And as some of you will know, my daughter joined my team a year ago, exactly a year ago, actually. We just had a thing on Facebook that said she did her first launch yesterday, a year ago. And she had watched from the sidelines for like 3 years. And I'd never asked her to join. And Rebecca kept saying to me, I just got to have that conversation. And I said, I can't. I literally couldn't even ask my daughter to join the business. Because I was so worried that, number one, she would say no. And number two, she would just, you know, it would be I just felt so uncomfortable about the whole thing. So she then decided, she asked me, I think I could do this, Mum. We kind of had a discussion. Well, it was a two-way. We had a discussion, and she went, yeah, I think I could do this. I think I'd be interested in doing it. So she joined, and things started moving along, and that was great. And I remember thinking one day, I'll probably get emotional about this now, but thinking one day, I knew that she was my why, and I was kind of articulating to myself, you know, seeing Hannah on that stage was, to me, much greater than me being up there. Seeing Hannah walk on the stage at, you know, AAC or GTC. And one day I was kind of just mulling this over and thinking about what could I do to really help her get there. And actually I turned it around in my mind, and what I thought was, what if I knew that she was following me and she was watching me and she's using me as her example of how to do things. And I suddenly realized that I was the worst role model she could possibly have in some ways. And that the worst thing that was going to happen, the inevitable thing that was going to happen, inevitable if I didn't shift the way I was behaving, was that she would do what I was doing, which was she would spend years just mulling around at the bottom, doing nothing, and let her fear get in the way of doing something, and that she would have learnt that from me. And I realized that I was literally teaching her how to fail instead of teaching her how to succeed. And that was it. It was literally like a flash in my head. That I realized that it wasn't so much my why of doing something that would lead her somewhere. It was more that if I don't do it, how on earth could I ever expect her to? How on earth could I ever say to her, you should do this, or if you do this, this will happen, when actually what I was showing her was, if you do this, nothing happens. And it was very much that kind of emotional, it was a very emotional shift for me to suddenly realize that I could either be her inspiration or actually, you know, set her up to fail. And it was as simple as that. And since that moment on, I haven't thought about it. I haven't even hesitated. It's amazing the change that has occurred in me. I'm asking everybody. I'm like, you know, literally, I had a lady around today. She's a new client. She was buying some stuff, and you know, as she's saying, I've got to run now. I'm in a hurry. I went, okay, but before you go, who else do you know? I said, you know, blah blah blah. So you loving this stuff? She went, yeah. I said, well, who else do you know who's going to love it? I said, all your friends are going to absolutely adore it, and they're going to love you for introducing. She went, yeah, I suppose they would, kind of thing, wouldn't they? Right, okay. Hold on a minute, got your diary. And I'm literally like, I'm like a whirlwind suddenly of activity. And I am also really being conscious of demonstrating it, letting it be seen by my team, doing, you know, actively coaching, doing trainings for them, that sort of thing. So, and that I love. I've always loved that. So I've kind of put my attention and my activities into doing the things that I really love and not worry too much about the things I don't enjoy doing, focusing on the things I do and that I'm good at. And I'm really, just even in the last month, really starting to see the results coming through and getting great feedback from the team, etc. So that's my experience, really. It kind of is a typical mindset shift, I think. I hope that kind of helps. It's my experience. Obviously, it's very personal, but hopefully that helps people to think, you know, it's different for all of us, completely different, and it has to be our own experience, I think. So
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you so much, Michelle. You are the UK Eunice Ray. Caroline Stalker, I just saw a comment. Make sure you go and see all the comments. Everybody absolutely loved you. Thank you. And you know how raw you were about, honestly, you know, because I've known you for many, many years through this journey in Arbonne, and just to have that, there was a shift, there had to be, because it just came, and like you said, you've never looked back since. And you know, I just that ego, so I remember Wayne Dyer saying ego stands for edge God out. You know, when we become separate from the whole, then, you know, because we don't think we are, we're in actual fact universe equals one song, so we're connected with everything, you know, through water and breath and all of that. And then I just want to say about, you said about doing things that inspired, so inspired equals in spirit. You know, it just feels natural, it's like fun, it's not heavy, it's you're doing it because you love it. But thank you, Michelle, that was incredible. So just finish up, I'll post this out. Thank you to Emma as well. I couldn't have chosen two better keynote speakers to start this mindset shift course. You guys were perfect, and thank you for just bearing out your soul and your heart with all of us tonight. So many people have come away with exactly what they needed, and you guys have delivered. So thank you so much. Mwah. Nikki Martin, you are up next on Our Nation Training. Thank you. Good night, everybody. I'll see you in a minute. Lots of love. Bye. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Michelle.